This is the Criterion Creeps podcast. And tonight, we're talking about Hamlet from 1948, directed by Laurence Olivier. As some astute listeners might recall, this is round two with one Laurence Olivier and his adaptations of the Bard's plays. And the first time out, Henry V, was not a good time had by either of us. We both found that movie to be pretty boring and pretty uninteresting. So here we are again. Larry, Bill, a synopsis here from Letterboxd, which I'll just read because it's worthless. Winner of 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor, Sir Laurence Olivier's Hamlet continues to be the most compelling version of Shakespeare's beloved tragedy. Olivier is at his most inspired, both as director and the melancholy Dane himself, as he breathes new life into the words of one of the world's greatest dramatists. That's the synopsis.
For Hamlet?
Yep.
That doesn't even...
Nope.
What?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. So, RJ,
Yes.
we're gonna freestyle, okay?
God.
We're gonna lay it out. I've read this play in high school, and then I read it in university too. So, and I just watched 2 movies about it. So I'm gonna try my best. So, King Hamlet's dead. And Prince Hamlet's sad because his uncle, Claudius, is married the mom. And now he's the king. And old poor Prince Hamlet, he's sad. And then there's a bunch of people in the courts. There's some friends show up like Horatio. And they're saying, yo, Hamlet, there's a ghost. It looks just like your dad. You should go check that out. And he's like, that sounds very interesting. And so he does. And yep, sure enough, it's the ghost of his dad telling him, like, hey, my brother, he killed me. You gotta do something about this. And Hamlet's like, yeah, I gotta do something about it. But what do I need to do? So he posits this. He thinks about it. And that's kind of the problem. And so a bunch of performers, a bunch of theater troupes show up. And Hamlet's like, hey, I got a great idea. Great idea. We're going to stage a play, and we're going to reenact the way that ghost told me my dad was killed. We're going to do it in front of the king, my uncle, and it's going to really stick it to him. Yep. So he does, but this, of course, kind of overextends his play, I guess. Anyway, I don't know.
Go on.
It's Hamlet. Fuck. It's got to be one of the most widely read stories in the English language, theoretically.
Or adapted. I mean, we got
adapted.
Lion King, we got Sons of Anarchy, we got every fucking show.
Fucking Sons of Anarchy. I was saving that for later. No, it doesn't matter. Fuck that show.
Well, edit that shit out, man.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I don't give a fuck.
Spoiler, guys. There's different story beats from Hamlet and other things. So there's Ophelia, his main squeeze that he treats mean to keep her keen, but he treats her a little too mean. She goes crazy, and then she goes and drowns. Her dad, Polonius, he gets fucking stabbed through a curtain because Hamlet thinks it's his uncle, and he just drags the body off. This story, I tell you, there's a pirate ship invasion. There's pirates raid a ship.
When did that happen?
Exactly. It's one of the things I've always thought was hilarious about Hamlet.
Okay.
And it happens.
Hey, you know what's hilarious about Hamlet? Didn't Shakespeare have a son called Hamnet?
Yep.
That's pretty funny.
That's great.
Yeah, good times.
Yep. And Hamlet's also what we call very small villages.
And I have a friend called Ham Meat.
Oh.
So there you go.
Is that his birth name?
It wasn't, but we changed it legally.
Yeah. So one thing leads to another. There's court intrigues. Hamlet's going to be sent off to England to hang out there, but it's all a ploy. There's a letter saying, yo, the executioner's going to kill this guy when he gets there, but he's smarter than that, and that doesn't happen because pirates show up. At least in this version of the story, they kind of skip over the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern stuff for whatever reason. And then Hamlet's back. He finds out what's going on while he's been on this boat, and it all sets up the final confrontation, which is a sword fight with poisoned blades and poisoned wines. Everyone dies, order's restored, because it's a tragedy in the classical Shakespearean tragic historical sense. So as far as this particular version of Hamlet, directed by Laurence Olivier, within like the first couple minutes, I just wrote, "Fuck!" Already so much better than Henry V. So much better. Like probably the most noteworthy thing that I'll take away from this movie is just like the awesome kind of like cinematography when it comes to like the castle of Elsinore, because it's just like it's very like German expressionistic. It's like really odd, and like, I mean, for 1948, I mean, maybe it's like not super groundbreaking because German expressionism was doing this thing like 20 years earlier, but it's nice to see that Laurence Olivier's like skills as a filmmaker since Henry V, which was 4 years prior. Right, it was 1944, I believe. He's like his skills have just like increased a great deal. Like he's made a movie now, and now he's like, I could do better. So there's this like when they do like the soliloquies, they like do like internal narration, like where it's like a voiceover narration, which is like, what an obvious thing to do. Why do we have to have this stagey bullshit like we were doing before? We're making movies here, not plays. Which was like the worst aspect of Henry V, is like it just felt like you were watching a stage play. This actually felt like we were watching a movie. So yeah, and there's like, you know, actual audio design where there's like haunting music and stuff like that. Like it really felt like, oh, we're watching like a movie. Again, like this is like high praise, I guess, that hey, we're watching a movie.
A movie.
Yeah, not just like a film play, which is like, if you remember my problem with Bergman's Magic Flute is just like it didn't feel like a movie. Like it just like what's the point of this? It's not my type of thing. Couple of things I'll throw out. Laurence Olivier was 40 years old here, playing a student. His mother, the actress playing her, was 28. And one of the things of note with this movie that, like, I don't know, I picked up on pretty quick is there's a lot more Oedipal complex sort of stuff going on with 3 X's. Because those are some pretty loving, intimate kisses that Mrs. Hamlet's given her son. Like, real weird.
Yeah, that was a trend this week in the movies we watched. The 2 Hamlet movies.
Wow,
there was a lot of open mouth kissing.
Yeah. Just
Jarrett's doing a weird thing right now that I wish I could show people, because he's like he's doing gross stuff to his microphone, and I don't like it, and it's uncomfortable, and he's a bad person.
So, RJ, this all being said, I think this movie's still just okay. At like, was it 2.5 hours? It's quite long. It's very like, it's still a movie from like 1948 in like the most boring ways possible, where like Laurence Olivier still is not like he's not a director in my mind. There's like a lot of scenes where it is just like, oh, he filmed these people talking in a room, and it's like, okay. Fine. Like it doesn't like go into the scenes and like help you build up and like feel, I don't know. We'll talk about it when we talk about the other Hamlet. But anyway, there's people who will complain, who've like purists that complain about sort of the things that Larry excised, since like apparently the play is like closer to about like probably about 4.5 hours long. There's like 2 hours of stuff that are just not here. Particularly like there's Fortinbras and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are just gone, but it kind of shows that like, well, maybe didn't really need them at all.
Probably not.
But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Hey, RJ, what did you think of 1948 Hamlet?
It sure is a version of Hamlet made in 1948.
Yep.
That's my review.
That's a fact.
It's a fact. Well, as we alluded to, and as we'll discuss more, Hamlet is a story that everyone is familiar with, whether or not you know you're familiar with it, because it is used so much in other mediums and other ways to tell stories in movies and TV. It's very popular. So I'm familiar with this Hamlet deal. I think the one thing that you said and cannot be stressed enough is that the major difference between this and Henry V, big old Henry V, it is such a stark difference. It's so much better because I think they were trying to do something with Henry V where it was like there was that novelty of it being a play and a movie, and they were trying to mix those things, and it just never really worked very well. That's why that movie is so bad. It's just like they try to bounce things around, and it's really boring, and it doesn't work.
The other thing I'm just remembering too is that like, so this movie is shot like black and white, and like it takes full advantage of that. And then like I always forget that Henry V was actually a color movie, but like the copy of it that's available is like so ugly. Like it's like I wonder if like that would make such a big difference just on a visual level. But I still think the staging and stuff like that would be really flat and drab.
Yeah, I agree. So this is like, as you put it, this is a real movie, which is nice. And we're all familiar with the story. So this thing is like 2.5 hours long. I threw this fucker up. I drifted in and out at certain times.
Yep.
There were some times where I was kind of, doing my thing. I think I went and I got some laundry. Don't act like I say weird stuff. I just say normal stuff, but I have a special spice to the way I talk. You just say weird, creepy shit like, "Ooh, daddy needs a nice pair of young boys to get cold with," and it's just like, "Oh, what are you talking about?"
Okay.
You say all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay. Anyway,
like, how did you start the show? What? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, if people are only listening to this, you missed all this creepy shit Jarrett was saying before, but it happened. Go listen to the podcast on SoundCloud. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Hamlet.
Yeah.
Okay. This seems like a real movie. It looks really nice because of the black and white, like you said. He actually learned how to direct things. I think there's really nice like tracking shots.
Well, and there's also we have the return of deep focus photography, which I talked. Well, if you remember, RJ has discussed in High and Low, where like the front and the back is like all actually carefully considered. Like you actually get a sense of the space and the detail.
Sure.
So like everything's in focus at all times, which is actually quite a difficult feat. Except in old movies like this or like Third Man, that type of thing, Orson Welles style. Yeah, Kurosawa
I like
style.
getting deep into focus. So I got that deep focus thing, right?
Yeah.
And I brought that up. I know what that is. I know a lot about movies and cinema. So he does a lot of good stuff like that. He's got some nice shots. There's all these long corridors. There's like stuff that's floating. There's these tracking shots where he's following people through the long corridors. That's cool. The Nazgul Witch King has a cameo in this as Hamlet's dad for a minute.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. This movie has a lot of dank leotards, which I also really liked because it's like dudes wearing normal ass shirts and then the tightest leotards. It's awesome.
There's like students like that everywhere on campus, by the way. It's just like that's what they're wearing is tights and t-shirts. And it's like, oh, it's olden times.
They're bringing back that Hamlet look.
Yeah. Bold cuts.
Cool. Exactly. I didn't mark down a timestamp here, but there is a scene where a dude just falls down some stairs, and I thought that was the funniest shit. Like he really just fell, and they're like, "That's fine, print it, cut it, print. We'll just let that guy fall down those stairs in this movie where there's only like one movie in the theater for like 8 months." Yeah. So that's cool.
Yep.
No, on the whole, this movie is very okay.
Yep.
I don't feel bad having watched it, which is a nice treat. There's a lot of movies that we watch for this show where it's just like, I wish I never agreed to do this podcast because I had to watch that movie. But no, it's fine. I'll never watch it again. You'd be crazy to watch this more than once.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that I wasted my time, at least. I folded laundry while I watched it, and that seemed like a good use,
nice.
like doubling down,
Yep.
So it's okay. It's a movie.
It's a laundry folder.
It's a laundry. See, that is a good point, Jarrett. We should start using that more often.
Bust
it's a
it
laundry
out.
folder. It's like when I talk about magazine movies, where it's like you could put it on in the background and read a magazine, and you would get a lot of enjoyment out of it. More so than if you were actively watching.
Yeah. Let's see. For notes here. One thing I didn't realize, I guess it was like the first sound film of the play made in England. If that makes sense.
I don't think that's true, and I think you're a liar.
Well, blame Wikipedia.
Okay.
What do you think, RJ, of Shakespeare purists?
I think that's dumb. I'm pretty sure Shakespeare didn't write any of his plays, if you believe Roland Emmerich.
Oh, shit.
Because that guy knows what's up. I don't know. Shakespeare purists, like, what are those guys do? They just like, oh, Shakespeare. You have to recite it note for note.
They refer to him as the bard. And
come off.
Yeah.
Come off it.
Yeah.
I like the Stephen King purists who refer to him as the bard.
I was going to make a note. I think when I started, so William Shakespeare, for those not aware, he is, as some describe, the Stephen King to Elizabethan plays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. Some people might not know who he is.
Yeah.
He's falling out of favor because all those kids know is that Romeo and Juliet, but it's spiced up now.
I did look up Shakespeare adaptations in film, and there's way less than you'd think.
Yeah, I guess it seems like there's a lot.
Yeah, but if you think about how many Stephen King adaptations there are, and you put them head to head, it's it's a lot narrower than you'd think. So
what is this? Is this just high school drama teachers who are fucking drilling this into people's heads forever?
Well, people read stuff. I guess the movies are there to people just make them sometimes.
Yeah, but didn't Boyfriend have 70 plays or something like that? I feel like he would have a lot of movies.
I know. You'd think there'd be more, but I guess maybe the audience isn't always there unless they make The Lion King or the Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, RJ, did you ever watch Sons of Anarchy?
I watched the first season, and I liked it quite a bit. When I lived in Colorado, I watched the first season, and then I remember when I moved home, I stopped, and me and Andrea were at I think my brother's house, and they were watching a new episode of Sons of Anarchy, and a dude was getting raped in jail cells. And then Andrea was... Yeah, and then we looked at each other, and we're like, we're probably good. Because they were like, you should watch this show. It's super wicked. And I was like, yeah, I know. I did watch it. I did think it was super wicked. But then, I don't know. I will probably finish it one day. I heard Stephen King makes an appearance in that show. That's cool.
He does. And it's within the range of when the show is still watchable and worth watching.
Does it get bad?
Yeah. There's a point where I drop off, and it's after the death of a major character who... you don't realize how important they are, just in terms of being the show that's oh, that's the reason I was watching the show, and when they die, it's
Opie?
Yeah, spoilers.
I didn't know that he actually died. That dude was so cool.
And he dies in the most haphazard, pointless way, and you're just that's it? And I just at that point I was just I don't give a fuck about anybody, and he was the only dude I liked, because he gets he's involved in the best scene in the entire show, which I think is the end of season 2. It's it's so fucking good. It's one of my favorite moments ever on a television show, and because it's co-created. I mean, it was created by the co-creator of the Shield. What's his name? The crazy dude who gets mutilated throughout the series.
Uncle Fester.
No, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but anyway, that guy's a nut, and doesn't realize what anything is good because he has no self-restraint. That's his problem. Back to Hamlet. Hey, RJ, this movie seems to have a lot of quotes in it, lots of things that people still say, and when you watch it again, you watch the performance of this, you go, oh yeah, that's from Hamlet, and how often that happens, and you go, oh right, that's from Hamlet. This is and then you think about all the things that Shakespeare came up with, and you're that are still in the language, and you go, oh, because those things still hold up pretty well, and he just came up with it, or at least codified things that maybe people said in a permanent way that we remember. Oh, people were clever back in the 1600s. Hey,
Jarrett.
Yeah.
That happened to me watching this movie. Not 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about the passing of Mr. John Dunsworth, Mr. Leahy from Trailer Park Boys, I sent out a tweet. It was "Good night, sweet prince," with a gif of him drinking alcohol, and I did not know that was from Hamlet.
Yeah.
And then I watched Hamlet, and I heard that, and I said, hot damn.
Yep.
I've been quoting Hamlet.
My favorite is always, that's the rub.
That's the.
Or,
Is that a quote?
There's the
I've
rub.
never heard someone say that before.
Seriously? Oh,
there's
come.
the rub right
there's,
there.
There's the rub. No, it's like, oh, come on.
That's one of those weird Duncanisms. It's like,
there's more things than hell in your philosophy, or whatever the fuck it is. Rah, 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 rah.
No, I think this is one of those weird things you've been saying lately, where you're like, oh, Daddy thinks that's the rub right there. Show Mama what's what.
Jesus, these voices.
Well, that's
hey,
not around.
So, until 1998, this is the only film where an actor had directed himself to a Best Actor award. Do you know who did the same thing in 1998?
Mr. Mel Gibson.
Roberto Benigni.
I don't give a fuck. Mel Gibson should have got it. When did Braveheart come out? 98?
5.
He's never won a best actor, but he should have.
Well, he didn't, because Robert Benigni did it.
Who the fuck is Robert Benigni?
Exactly.
Seriously, though, who is that?
Pinocchio. And
Pinocchio?
Life is Beautiful.
What,
See,
the fucking animated
you
Pinocchio?
No, you fucking millennials. God.
I'm not a millennial.
Yeah, you are.
I was born in 1990.
Yeah, exactly.
I was 10 years old when the millennium hit.
Yeah, exactly.
So wait, what movie did he win a fucking Best Actor for? For Pinocchio?
No, for Life is Beautiful.
Oh.
It's a movie that, okay, this is one of those movies that, like, everybody, like lost their shit over back in 1998, but now no one knows about them. Like, no one talks about him. No one gives a fuck about him. He sucks, because he made Pinocchio, a live-action movie where he plays a boy, and he's just a fucking old Italian man. It's like, he's sucked. And so the first time I thought about him in a long time was when I was reading about this movie, and I was like, Roberto Benigni. I'm like, oh, fuck. You know what I also found out this week? Is like there's this show called Little Sheldon, and
you didn't know about that?
Oh, I had no idea. And like I was like, because I was watching it on UFC night, friends were like, "Oh, Little Sheldon." I'm like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" And then like, and they're like, I was afraid to like ask and be like, "Oh, I'm like not cool. I'm not hip. I don't know what this is." And then I was like, "What's Little Sheldon?" And then like this graphic popped up, and it's like fucking Sheldon from Big Bang Theory morphing into this little kid, and I just was like, "Oh fuck!" And I couldn't believe it. And then I looked up later saying that like it did like one of the highest ratings ever for like a sitcom show. It's like life's not fair. Anyway.
Well, it might not be fair, Jarrett, but it's the life you deserve.
It is.
So
anyway, hey, how did you like that Peter Cushing?
Yeah, it was nice to see him pop up near the end there.
Yeah, fopping about.
It would have been cool if Christopher Lee was in this thing too.
Yeah.
As like the sword or something.
Yeah, as the sword. So yeah, there's always like that pirate side business that shows up in this movie. I've always laughed at because it's just like, oh, and then the pirates show up, and it's like in the actual play, it's always handled like as offhand. But this movie kind of uses flashbacks and like other cinematic sort of techniques to like show things because it's movies. But like I always remember like back in the day reading that in the play and being like, that's like the most random ass thing ever. So I mean, there's also the Ophelia floating down the pond thing. That's like nicely done. I think it's better done here than it is in the other Hamlet movie we'll be talking about here shortly. Everyone dies. There's a really sweet like top rope dive that Laurence Olivier does. I think that the whole sword fight in this final bit is actually really good. Like you can tell that like these are trained actors and they like fucking practice this shit, and it looks awesome. And it's actually quite violent when it comes to Claudius getting his, with those swords going right into his chest like a couple times, and you're like, whoa. Yeah,
he really gives it to him.
Yeah, he like fucking sinks it in. Anything else I want to throw out there? Yeah, so I checked probably the time, probably around the hour mark, and then again around the second hour mark, kind of being like, oh man, this is kind of weirdly paced.
Half an hour.
Yeah, that was like the thing where I was like, oh man, this is still got to go, huh? And because at that point, it was like, I think in the graveyard scene, the whole skull thing, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I checked too. Yeah. And then you're like, 34 minutes left. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. Holy crap! Let's just wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a much better movie than Henry V. I think it's because it's a more focused story as well. But anyway, RJ, I know you want to
Yo.
talk about Hamlet from 1990, directed by Franco Zeffirelli, and starring one Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson. I thought Kenneth Branagh directed this version of Hamlet,
Oh,
but he
no.
directed a different version of
He
Hamlet.
directed his own version of it, which I'll talk about a little bit.
Yeah. So we also watched the 90s version of Hamlet with my main man, Mel Gibson, the fallen son. He's been away from the podcast for a while, or the show.
Since High
I
and
guess you
Low,
could call.
actually, I think.
Since High and Low?
Yeah, because that was Ransom, I believe.
Oh, for remake. Yeah, okay. For movies that are actually connected. Like, I've talked about him a bunch, but yeah, so this is a nice return for him. We've been planning this, or not planning, but I've been looking forward to this for months.
It's been on the docket for like the whole time this show's been going on.
I think about a year ago,
Yeah.
I was about to watch Hamlet, and you're like, why don't you just save that until we have to do the first Hamlet in the Criterion
Yeah,
Collection?
because you were going to watch it like when we watched Henry, and I was like, why? Just wait a few more months.
Well, I didn't know that Hamlet was part of the Criterion Collection, so I was like, maybe I'll watch the Mel Gibson version to throw in there. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, there was a version made with Mr. Mel Gibson, and it had Glenn Close, and it had Ian Holm, Bilbo Baggins, and it had Pete Postlewaite, or Pistol, Wit,
Oh, yeah,
the guy from James and the Giant Peach.
Mhm.
That dude
Usual
who,
Suspects.
yeah, Usual Suspects. I don't like that movie that much.
Pete Postlewaite, yeah.
I like James and the Giant Peach more. That's what I'm going to go with.
Okay.
So it's got him in there too, and we got Mr. Mel Gibson as a hot young thing with the maple dip hair. That's what we call it in Canada. I believe you called it the maple blondie, but in the biz we call it that, the maple dip.
Yep.
I've never seen him with like blonde hair
It's
before.
very upsetting.
It was quite striking, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I took a lot of pictures.
Because how would you know that someone's Danish if they don't have blonde hair?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was like, does Hamlet have to be blonde, or is this like a Denmark thing, or is this just a weird thing that they decided to do? I don't know. I never figured it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see him with some blonde hair. He goes full on. He has some soliloquies.
He
has
Shakespeare's.
He Shakespeare's in them monologues. The best is after he sees his Witch King dad, who's not really a spooky ghost at all.
He's just
like
he's
there.
just a guy that's like powdered white.
Which I'll give the Laurence Olivier version. That Witch King ghost dad is the coolest because he's all misty and he's just like, whoa.
And slow down voice. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Like it's like I said when I was talking about like that audio design and like everything about it, it's like yeah, that stuff was played better because it was going for like that again that expressionistic sort of route, so you could kind of spook it up really nicely. Whereas this, it's just kind of like, oh hey, there's a dead guy, which is like fine. It's like an interpretation, but it's not memorable.
Yeah, it's fine. Like it's there.
Yeah.
You know, it's there. So, but yeah, so we got my main man here, Mel. He's doing his best. He really lays it down. And I think for the first half, he's really brought down by this Shakespeare shit because it's not him, you know.
Yeah,
But then later on, he does get to play a little bit with what made him famous, like his kind of like his little quirks and stuff like that.
Manicness.
Like, yeah, his like manicness. Like there's a scene where he like confronts like his like band of people and he's fucking losing it, and you're just like, yeah, you're like, that's the Mel Gibson I like.
Yeah.
Or when he's like he's playing around like what's his face, Ian Holm.
Yeah.
Comes in to see what he's reading, and he's got like no shoes on and his book's like upside down.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you reading? And he's like, words. And he's like playing around, and like that's super Mel Gibson-y. And there's this sword fight at the end where he like pretends like he falls and trips a bunch, but then he looks up at Glenn Close and he winks, and you're like, that's such a Mel thing to do. So that's cool too. So it's a little out of type, but in the first half, I feel like it kind of brings him down. But in the second half, he kind of gets to play a little bit more.
Yeah,
like
well, see, that's the thing. It's like, so Mad Mel, when he's playing, gets to play like a character who's like pretending to lose their mind. He's perfect. Like that's like that's his thing. It's like he's always like, you know, in Lethal Weapon or whatever the fuck. It's like he plays crazy and he's unpredictable. That's Mel Gibson's sort of realm. So once that kicks in, he's like in his element, because like I feel like you actually are more along the lines of like he's playing crazy to like sell people that he's going crazy, but I never really got that sense in the Olivier version that Olivier was like playing crazy. It was so subdued that like I never got the sense that like, other than being told he's acting weird, what's going on with him, is he depressed, like you don't get the sense of that. You don't get into that performance as well. It's kind of a, I don't know. It's so mannered, but I mean, Mel's like such a method actor type of dude that.
Fuck
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the coolest. I think he is a fun guy.
Yeah.
I think this version of Hamlet is okay. It like it's all right. It held my attention, and it does some stuff. There's some funny scenes. Like there's a scene where a guy goes like, where Mel's like, "So uncle," and then it cuts to an old guy just eating chicken. I thought that was cool. At 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 30 seconds, there is an extreme face push. And I thought that was funny, too. So, funny enough to make a note of it.
Okay.
Yep.
This movie is like ridiculously 90s in period piece. Like this movie, like if you were to describe like what do 1990 period pieces look and feel like, this movie is on that list. Yep. So this movie, like somehow, it feels like it fits more in to the story because it has like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern stuff into it. It's a shorter runtime, which is one of the criticisms that's like against the Olivier one, is that like he trims out so much, but it seems like he misses out on a lot of stuff, and he would argue that it made for a leaner play, which is bizarre because this seems like it has a lot more in it, but runs shorter. I guess like this comes back to this idea of like updating stories or making stories play to audiences over time. So like in 1948, that I'm sure Laurence Olivier Hamlet played to the audience it played to. And for 1990, I guess this was like an updating of the story for that audience. But it's like, I don't know. It's fine as well. And like now it's been years since I've seen it. It was high school. Grade 12 high school since I've seen it, but I have seen the Kenneth Branagh Hamlet, and I remember that movie like being pretty good. Like not like, it's not like my all-time favorite movie. Probably like, I mean, my favorite Shakespeare adaptation hands down is Roman Polanski's Macbeth. I think that movie is that movie is like so good. I love it because it's like, it feels like the filthy shitty like 1600s, 1500s, whatever the hell, medieval ages. It's nasty. The sword fights in that are like amazing. It's got a great feel to it, despite I believe if you brought up animal violence in it somewhere. Yeah,
because they really kill like 3 dogs and a bear in that movie because they just let them fight, and that's pretty upsetting. It's
pretty messed up. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. That sounds right though. But yeah, like that's like to me, like I've always been a Macbeth fan because Macbeth's also like the nastiest like of the like tragedies. Because I also like, it's been a long time since I watched Titus, the Julie Taymor one. But I remember that being like quite a nice looking movie, and like, and it's also like, it's kind of like the pre-Macbeth story. It's like very similar sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I was thinking about watching the Branagh Hamlet again, but it's like, it's 4 hours long. Like it is, Jesus. Like it is the full play. It's everything. But so I'm like, I can't find the time to do that because I still have to watch Kenneth Branagh's Henry V, which I still see is like super well regarded. But maybe one of these days when I actually have that like urge to like really actually sit down and watch like another Shakespeare movie, I will definitely get both of those out of the way. But yeah, like, so 90 Hamlet. I don't know. It's okay. Again, like it's
fine.
I'd say it's like in the same level of enjoyment, I guess. Neither movie I'd watch again. I wouldn't recommend people watch them either. I think like, and most people would probably seem to be like the Branagh version is really the way to go. The way to go. If you want to watch like a film version of the story. But yeah, that's about it. Like I think I wrote Ian Holm is good in this. What a shock.
Yeah, he is good. There's a funny scene where he's watching the play, the reenactment, and he's just like falling asleep, and you're just like, good stuff, Ian Holm.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I think the sword fight, the Olivier version is still better though too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
The sword fight in Criterion Hamlet is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's like quite
It's
exciting
raw.
and well done, and like it's not like editing around two guys that don't know how to handle a sword. Like Mel does not know, and it's like a big clunky sword too. It's not like a fencing kind of dueling sword. It's just like, all right, just go out there and slug it out, which is like fine too, and it's probably more realistic. Like maybe that's what they swung back then. It's more maybe well researched, but I don't know. Yeah, this movie's like kind of just generic. It's inoffensive, but yeah,
but it's there.
yeah. But hey, RJ,
Yo,
who hates Olivier's Hamlet?
I can't imagine too many people.
It's like it's going to be the same thing that you could imagine what it is. Like Padula Metio says gave it 2 stars. Oh God, who the fuck cares?
Nice.
Nice. Tarok Amir gave it 2.5 stars and just wrote Shakespeare is overrated.
Well, I guess.
I don't know. It's like so dumb. Like that's like that's just like talking in terms of like Marvel movies. It's like, oh, Christopher Nolan's overrated. It's like it's like this guy's been dead for 400 years and people still talk about it. It's like fuck off. Like,
overrated.
Yeah, read something. Joe Briel gave this movie 1.5 stars, and he writes, I'll never give a high rating to films in Shakespearean prose because it's just too confusing and ultimately too boring for me. I enjoyed the acting and the action in 2011's Coriolanus, but I still didn't like it simply because of the dialogue. Obviously, Olivier's Hamlet is no exception. There's nothing really all that special about the sets or the acting outside of Olivier. It's not my least favorite of the Best Picture winners, but it's close. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if you've never read Hamlet, if you don't, if you have never read Shakespeare, it probably is pretty tough, even with these movies, to like get into it because you're starting at it's an uphill battle. You have to read it, so it's kind of a weird thing. Is like, are these movies like great movies? Like, 'cause I mean, my favorite is Macbeth, and I've read that play like multiple times because I actually really enjoy reading that story. So I mean, that helps, that adds to enjoying it. But I don't know, maybe I'm just dumb and I need to I need to read things first and then watch them when it comes to Shakespeare.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone hates Mel Gibson's Hamlet.
There might be someone who does, but I bet they're like, I don't like Mel Gibson anymore.
Oh, they got the baggage that they bring to it.
Yeah, which is dumb. I mean, at least he wasn't raping all those kids like Kevin Spacey
in his adaptation of Hamlet.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Well, I'm just saying, like, he did bad stuff, but at least he wasn't raping people.
Okay, here we go. There's some people who hate Mel Gibson Hamlet. 1/2 star, Suzanne Moses. Worst Hamlet ever. Had to watch it for a class on literature and film, and we watched most of the Hamlets ever recorded, so I can speak with some authority. Okay.
You had to watch most of the Hamlets ever? I doubt that.
Yeah, most of the Hamlets ever. It's like
girlfriend probably watched like 2.
Her favorite films are Henry V, starring...
Shut up.
Yeah, but from 2012. Much Ado About Nothing, Stardust, and the Dark Crystal, and like all they have is like, and on their watch list they have like New Macbeth.
Wow.
And they gave 5 stars to Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, well, I know where their allegiance is.
Yeah,
that Marvel business.
Nathan Writings gave it 1 star. Hamlet is a story of nuance, and that's what makes the story so endlessly fascinating. However, Mel Gibson wouldn't know nuance if it hit him in the face. A contrived and dreadful dud. No.
Come on. That's not true.
This was so dull, another one writes. Also, medieval, costuming, etc. I guess if we go back to Shakespeare's source material, what the fuck is that even?
What does that mean?
Horrible. Oh yeah, Bonham Carter's in this.
Yeah.
At her least offensive, because now she is just offensive.
Yeah. Well, she's just too Tim Burton for her own good.
Yeah.
You know?
Facts.
You know?
Facts.
She came to our city once, Creepsville.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when they were filming that Lone Ranger, she was here. She's got a picture at a coffee shop downtown.
I did not know that.
Well, you don't care about your community.
I remember Rollerball.
Oh, yeah, my sister saw LL Cool J in a Walmart. She
Yeah.
got a Polaroid picture of him.
Well, and everyone knows my story about that time Robin Williams used the toilet at the comic book store
Yep.
when he was making RV.
It was a great day for everyone.
Rest in power, Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
I think that's it, though.
Yes.
This movie is fine.
Yes, very fine. Not bad.
Yep.
Very fine.
Yep. After the break, I'm going to kill RJ's dad.
Come on. You weirdo. I'm going to kill daddy. Baby needs a bottle. Because you talk about all that weird stuff all day. This weird, like, sex things that you talk about all the time.
So much baggage. So much baggage you bring to this show.